Hey guys, Dantix here back with another Dragon Age the Veilguard video. Today we got a ton more juicy info direct from Bioware showcasing the duelist focused rogue and how exactly progression works with the character. We'll be diving into the skill tree, items, runes, enchantments, and their companions in order to maximize the class's damage. The footage looks so much better than yesterday's poorly compressed and cluttered IGN showcase. Not only did they introduce us to the Canary Megamind, something just felt off. Before we start though, a quick reminder, I'm celebrating my almost 250k subs by giving away a ton of prizes, including a 4090, a console of your choice, and games. Subscribe and follow the link below to enter. Also keep an eye out for the purple secret word in this video. Alright, let's start with the skill tree. As you complete missions, find codex entries, explore the world, and kill your enemies, you'll level up, gaining extra health and a skill point to invest in your skill tree. The maximum level is 50. We're starting as a rogue this time, and we can see the different specializations: Saboteur, Veil Ranger, and Duelist. You can unlock these at level 20. In this video, we're going to build towards the Duelist specialization. Swift as the wind, the Antivan Crow Duelist specializes in dancing between blades and punishing enemies with devastating melee blows. You can see in the specialization preview, it has some poison flourishes. What's interesting though is when you mouse over the segments of the skill tree, they are named. This one is Antivan Crow, and it's focused on melee attacks and parry. Maintaining momentum and finishing enemies are key strengths here with these nodes. So we head to the rogue core skills. There are 4 types: traits, passives, abilities, and ultimates. Traits are new abilities activated with a button combination. Riposte can be activated after a successful defend, launching off a counter attack. Parries like Death's Blessing are just flat, always active improvements to your character. In this case, a 10% buff to necrotic damage. Abilities are actions you can trigger during combat. You can have 3 slotted at any time, swap them out, and modify them. This one is Toxic Dash. It's a strike projectile type ability, does decent necrotic damage, costs 1 momentum pip and therefore has relatively no cooldown, and applies Sunder. I'm surprised this one counts as a projectile, as it's quite literally a dash towards your target, as you can see in the preview. Maybe it's intentional in order to give it buffs from passives that boost projectile based abilities. Finally, we have ultimates. You get one of these when you reach a class specialization, and each class can have only 1 slotted at any given time. They charge up as you fight and can be activated when they're ready. In this case, we see Murder of Crows, the Duelist ultimate. It deals massive necrotic damage, hitting all enemies in an AoE with rapid slashes. We'll get a closer look of that at the end. So that's the character we have designed. Let's switch over to the character screen, where we'll see her level, class, and background, which seems to be a rogue grey warden. We also see her damage and defense. Then in the middle, we have her gear. In this case, we have 2 single-handed weapons and a bow. So those worried we can't customize the bow, here we go. We also have a helm, armor, and 4 accessory slots. We also have runes to the right, and our 3 abilities and ultimate at the bottom. What is notable is that you can choose if you want to display each individual piece. In this case, they've turned off the bow and the armor piece being displayed, most likely because she has a cosmetic on that they want to show off. Now it's time to swap over our ultimate ability. What is notable though is you get a temporary or class-based ultimate to start with. Rogues get Concussive Barrage, dealing high physical damage by firing a barrage of concussive bombs that deal increased stagger, and duration of any stagger condition set off by this is increased, meaning that some builds might want to stick with this ultimate, but in this case we swap to the Murder of Crows. We also take a look at another skill, Explosive Daggers. It's a projectile duration type ability and deals high physical damage. It costs 1 momentum pip and also applies the Sundered effect. We then swap it out for the newly acquired Toxic Dash. You can swap abilities out anytime you're not in combat. You might want to do so if you're facing necrotic resistant enemies like Darkspawn, which we'll show off soon. You can also use enchantments to enhance your items, but I'll cover that soon as well. First, let's see the rogue in action. As you just saw, they activated another ability, Hurricane of Blades. It deals decent AoE necrotic damage and costs 1 adrenaline pip. These enemies are vulnerable to necrotic and resistant to lightning, so our build should make quick work of them. So you can acquire items two ways. The first is by visiting vendors. You'll see here this one is part of the Shadow Dragons faction, and by leveling your reputation with them, you'll get better rewards. You can also upgrade the shop's rank to get more items for purchase. You can also upgrade items at the shops, as we saw in the last video. The second way to acquire items is the most obvious, finding them out in the world. Let's take a look at an example. While exploring the Necropolis halls, we discover a new main hand weapon in a chest. Let's take a look at that now. Every item has stats and properties, as well as a rarity. This one adds 20% damage to a final attack in a chain. It also can be enhanced with the locked effects you see below if you invest into it, which I will talk about soon. Let's see it in action. The combat is definitely looking a lot better, but what about further improvements? Did someone say enchantments? Here we are with the Mysterious Caretaker. You can access this at the Lighthouse. You can upgrade your item stats and enchant. Like other shops, you can upgrade its level, but you do so with Caretaker's power in this particular case. You gain Caretaker's power by finding mementos in the world or buying them at a shop. You can see an example here. The Means of Antiva, which costs 3 of an unknown resource to buy and gives 50 Caretaker power. The higher your rank, the better your upgrades. It shows here that Workshop rank 3 unlocks new enchantments. First, let's look at upgrading. When you upgrade an item, you buy the required amount and then the item will get a stat increase. You can see the Enchanted Longblade going up to +2. Your item will upgrade all the way up to your current shop rank, so 3 in this case. Now, diving into enchantments, this will imbue a weapon with a property. For example, we can give this main hand weapon 25% extra stagger, so you can see how there are a ton of options to complement the build you're going for. But wait, there's more. You can also enchant your abilities. Let's pop back over to Toxic Dash. This time we increase its crit damage by 25%, but wait even longer, there's even more. You can also enchant and upgrade your companion's items, but we'll talk companions later. Your workshop rank affects more than just your enchantments and your upgrades. It affects items you find or buy in the world. So if your workshop rank is 3, you'll start to see +3 items dropping in the world, and shops will sell +3 items, like this Antivan Rapier. If your rank is 1, you'll find items like the Iron Cast Heavy Armor at +1. If you're at 5, new items like this Barbed Longsword will be at 5 as well. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If you find or purchase a duplicate item, the level of your existing item will jump up to match your current rank, increasing its stats. The item will also be empowered. We can see here the Duelist Blade. If we purchase one from this Mournwatch vendor, which looks awesome by the way, the item increases to level 3 and it unlocks one of the locked properties and increases the item rarity. So if an item has 3 locked properties, you just need to acquire the same item 3 times to unlock everything on it. So to recap, you can upgrade your items manually, you can apply enchantments to all items and abilities even, and you can find or buy duplicates to upgrade items and unlock their locked properties. This makes for a lot of customization options, so be sure to keep your Caretaker as high rank as you can. Now, we can't forget about runes. You can slot up to 3 runes on your character at any time, and runes provide a passive effect and an active ability you can use. For example, Glaciate gives you a passive 10% bonus to cold, and if you activate it, all your weapons will deal cold damage for 20 seconds. Then we have Scorch, which does the same thing, but for fire damage, meaning we'll have some more damage types if we ever run into necrotic resistant enemies. So let's take a look at some gameplay. I'm liking what I see with Rogue. It feels like their attacks have a lot of weight to them. We do get a closer look at Death from Above, Davrin's ability, which sets off a combo. Alright, now that we've gone through some items and enchantments, let's look at companions and how you can customize them. So each companion has their own unique skill tree and set of items. They can't equip as many as Rook, but get a main hand weapon and an offhand weapon or keepsake, armor, and a trinket. Like you'd expect, their gear can not only enhance them, but can also improve your character's build. Lucanus here has the ability to apply bleeding when detonating the overwhelmed effect, so if you lean into applying that effect, this item would be great. We can also upgrade and enchant companion items at the Caretaker. Like mentioned before, we're back on Lucanus's cloak, we can upgrade it to level 5. Then we can enchant it with +1 maximum stacks of necrosis, meaning Lucanus can help us stack necrotic effects on targets, and go 1 stack further. So when we come across necrotic weak enemies, which we will soon, I'll show how that works. Speaking of going further, we finally get a look at companion skill trees. Here is Lucanus's. They seem to level up and gain points differently than Rook does, but you can spend points in their skill tree all the same. This tree looks a lot more extensive than we thought. Some nodes seem like they give you a choice to make, as a few are crossed out, suggesting you made a pathway choice and the other is locked now because of it. Here is one of his abilities, Debilitate, which we've seen in action before. It deals 272 necrotic damage, has a 30-second cooldown, and applies Sundered. So this move is a primer. Status effects include Sundered, Overwhelmed, and Weakened, and they can be detonated with other abilities like Eviscerate, which can detonate the Overwhelm effect. Detonating can deal big damage in an AoE. You can also swap out these abilities anytime you're not in combat, just like on Rook. So it would be ideal to set your companions up with abilities that combo with your own or fill in for your weaknesses. An example is that if you know you're facing a Darkspawn, you can bring Davrin along and equip him with Asan Strike, which does fire damage. We could also bring Nev, since we can prime the Sundered effect with our skills, and she can detonate it with her Icebreaker ability. It deals decent cold damage, but most importantly, detonates Sundered. So let's see it in action. First, we'll use Davrin's Asan Strike ability on this Herlock. The enemy is armored, and Asan Strike deals bonus damage to armored targets as well as dealing fire damage, which Darkspawn are weak to. As you can see, it's quite effective, especially against the trash who went flying towards our screen. Next, we use Toxic Dash to get into the fight, but most importantly, apply the Sundered status. Now that the status effect is applied, we can use Nev's Icebreaker to detonate it, exploding and dealing major damage. I would have applied the Sundered effect before using Asan Strike personally, because Sundered lowers the opponent's defenses and Asan Strike would have dealt more damage. Here we are in another situation. This time we're facing a burgeoning Malice who is weak to necrotic damage, so let's dash in with our Toxic Dash again. Lucanus, who is now on our team, can deal necrotic damage as well, so let's get him to debilitate the target, which deals necrotic damage and high stagger. Finally, let's finish up by getting a closer look at the Duelist ultimate. So that's everything. What do you think of the progression systems in Veilguard? More or less excited? I personally like what I see much more than what we saw in IGN's preview. So don't forget to enter the competition, do the typical YouTube stuff, and for everything Dragon Age, you're in the right place. Ciao friends.